In this video, we're going to talk about dividing polynomials using long division. And here's what I'm going to try to divide. I'm going to take this polynomial and divide it by this one. The one that's being divided, that's called the dividend. And the one we're dividing by is called the divisor. When we set this up to divide, we set it up as a normal division problem. The divisor always goes outside of the division box. And the dividend always goes inside the division box. To start dividing, we look at the very first term in the divisor and the very first term in the dividend. And we ask ourselves, x times what will give me x squared? And the answer is x. And then I take this x and I multiply it times that first term in the divisor, x times x, x squared. And I take that same x and I multiply times the second term in the divisor, times -1. X times -1, negative x. The next step in division is to subtract. When I subtract, be careful. This minus sign outside the parentheses changes the signs inside of the parentheses. How do we do that? Well, this is what we do. We change this minus to a plus, and then this changes to a negative, and this one changes to a plus. So now we have x squared plus negative x squared, that makes 0, and we have x plus x, which makes 2 x's, and we bring down -1. And then we start dividing again. But before we start dividing, always check the exponent in this term. If this exponent is less than the exponent in the divisor, that's your signal to stop dividing. That tells you we're done. Otherwise, we have more division to do. So right now, the exponent in this term is equal to the exponent in the divisor. So that tells us keep dividing. Whenever it's less, then you stop. So again, let's look at the first term in the divisor and the first term in this binomial. It's 2x. So I ask, x times what will give me 2x? And the answer to that is if you multiply times 2. And then you multiply. 2 times that first term times x is 2x. And 2 times the second term, -1, is -2. And now we subtract. Remember, this minus sign outside of the parentheses will change all the signs inside the parentheses. So this changes to a plus, this changes to a minus, and this changes to a plus. 2x minus 2x, 0 x's, and -1 plus 2 makes 1. Now, again, we compare the degree of this number with the degree of the divisor. This has no exponent. This doesn't have a variable term, which we can look at the exponent. So that means that this number is, in fact, less than the exponent for the divisor. How do I know? Because every constant number has a variable term. That's x to the 0 power. But since x to the 0 power is 1, we don't write it. So x to the 0 power is less than x to the first power. So that tells me to stop dividing. And I've ended this division with a remainder of 1. This one is the remainder. So how do I write the answer to this division? This is the correct way to write it. X squared plus x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 is equal to your quotient. This is your quotient, x plus 2, plus your remainder, which is 1. And we always write the remainder over the divisor. And that would be the answer to your division. I'll see you in the next video with a second example.